October 11th, 2025. Codename Huntsman 71. This is the code name for the strike drone unit of the 71st Separate Brigade of the Ukrainian Army. The unit is tasked with destroying enemy-occupied buildings. Enemy soldiers are using abandoned villages as staging points. However, the strike drones are relentlessly attacking the enemy's shelters and destroying everything. October 16th, 2025. It was the early hours of the morning, and the sun had not yet risen over the Dobropillia region. Sirens began to sound at the Ukrainian command center. Troops mobilized under an emergency code. Reconnaissance drones had transmitted information to the command center under an emergency code that the Russian army was attacking with a dense convoy of armored vehicles on the horizon. The reconnaissance drones had detected exactly 22 armored vehicles belonging to the Russian army. The Russian forces' objective was to break through and destroy the Ukrainian defenses in the Dobropillia region. The enemy's movement with so many armored vehicles showed their determination to break the Ukrainian defenses. However, the Ukrainian defenses were constantly on alert. The first contact with the enemy began with artillery fire. The artillery fire virtually wiped one of the Russian armored vehicles off the face of the earth. Reconnaissance drones relayed the enemy's route of movement to the artillery in real time, and the artillery fired repeatedly at this heavily armored route. Within a short time, black smoke began to rise from the area. The artillery fire was successful. At the same time, remotely controlled anti-tank mines, which had been placed along the route beforehand, began to be triggered. Suddenly, the enemy armored convoy was under fire. The enemy crew did not know what to do. While some armored vehicles continued to advance, others tried to maneuver backwards. The enemy soldiers were like they had fallen into a hellhole. Bombs were constantly exploding around them. The Ukrainian military successfully repelled the enemy's early morning attack. 9 of the enemy's armored vehicles were completely destroyed, while 4 others were severely damaged. The Russian army was forced to retreat from this attempt with millions of dollars in losses. October 12, 2025. Ukrainian forces have recently attracted attention with their night operations. Nighttime, when Russian forces are at their weakest, is an advantage for Ukrainian forces. This is because the Ukrainian army, which has a large number of night vision drones, is able to destroy the enemy's designated targets with precision strikes at night. Here is how an enemy ammunition transport vehicle was destroyed in a night operation. October 15, 2025. Ukrainian volunteer fighters destroyed an IMR-3 mine clearance vehicle belonging to the Russian enemy army. This vehicle, used by Russian forces specifically to clear the way for armored vehicles, was completely destroyed as a result of successful kamikaze attacks by Ukrainian volunteer units. The units destroyed 2 of these vehicles side by side. October 9, 2025. This time, the kamikaze drones focused on the communication networks of Russian forces. The Ukrainian army began by destroying their communication lines to break the enemy's offensive power. The goal was to completely destroy the communication network before attacking enemy targets, preventing them from calling for help. Having successfully completed their first mission, the drone operators now turned to their real targets. These were enemy soldiers hiding deep in the forest and carrying out attacks on Ukrainian lines. Reconnaissance drones had been conducting continuous scanning operations over these forested areas. The scans revealed that many Russian soldiers and ammunition were hidden deep in the forest. The kamikaze drones took off one by one and began their attacks without delay. They launched fierce attacks on the points marked by reconnaissance units. The exploding kamikaze drones showed that they were beginning to eliminate Russian targets one by one. Vampire drones were also operating in coordination with the kamikaze drones. The bombs suddenly falling from the sky onto enemy targets signaled our presence. Russian soldiers thought they were safe deep in this forest. However, the intense drone activity deceived them. October 17, 2025. A Ukrainian gunnery unit fires on a Russian armored vehicle. The enemy vehicle is advancing rapidly. Its sharp maneuvers in the open terrain seem to have saved the enemy crew and the armored vehicle from the gunfire. However, there was a hunter waiting in the sky, ready to attack. It immediately swooped down on the armored vehicle and took it into pursuit. The FPV Kamikaze drone, moving alongside the reconnaissance drone, waited for the most opportune moment to attack. The Kamikaze drone carried out its attack just as the armored vehicle slowed down to pass an obstacle on the road. After this first strike, the enemy armored vehicle sustained heavy damage. Shortly thereafter, it became immobilized. A second Kamikaze drone then delivered an effective strike to completely destroy the armored vehicle. October 17, 2025. Shortly after the Ukrainian Navy detected a Russian naval drone moving toward an attack in Ukrainian territorial waters, it destroyed it like this. The intensity of the explosion indicates that the enemy vehicle also contained ammunition. October 16, 2025. Ukraine's eyes in the sky record the advance of 2 Russian troops. However, a little further ahead, Ukrainian infantrymen lie in wait, ambushing the enemy soldiers. Shortly thereafter, the infantrymen pull the triggers of their weapons one after another, neutralizing the enemy soldiers. In this operation, reconnaissance drones identify the positions of enemy soldiers in the area, while Ukrainian infantry on the ground move towards the identified positions and neutralize the enemy soldiers. Soldiers belonging to the 63rd Infantry Brigade engage in close-range combat. A Ukrainian soldier, who has been detected by reconnaissance drones in a nearby building, approaches the enemy silently and alone and first throws a hand grenade. The grenade's impact neutralizes both enemy soldiers with a violent explosion. October 15, 2025. Venom teams, Ukraine's secret heroes, are giving the Russian troops a nightmare. The team specifically targeted the enemy's military equipment. Kamikaze drones took off one by one. They then locked onto Russian forces' supply vehicles. What followed was nothing but flames rising into the sky from the wreckage of Russian supply trucks. The sudden, swift, and violent attacks caused significant losses to the enemy army. They did not just inflict personnel losses on the enemy. The vehicles and ammunition they destroyed were worth millions of dollars. After each attack by the FPV Kamikaze drones, the destruction at Russian targets was clearly visible. They were burning in flames. October 9, 2025. The Novopavlivka direction is one of the areas experiencing the most intense battles. Ukraine's OPFOR Corps unit is the unit experiencing the fiercest clashes with the enemy in this area. They aim to reduce the enemy's area of operation at all hours of the day. Their goal is to drive the enemy out of Ukrainian territory, while reconnaissance drones continuously conduct scanning operations. FPV Kamikaze drones are busy destroying identified enemy targets. Kamikaze drones are the best way to quickly neutralize Russian soldiers moving around the area in scattered formations. This unit also knows how to use kamikaze drones most effectively. At the same time, bomb-carrying vampire drones can neutralize these scattered enemy soldiers even faster. This is because these drones can deliver bombs to multiple targets simultaneously. October 8, 2025. The first attacks by the Ukrainian Army's Strix unmanned aerial vehicle unit flush enemy troops out of their shelter. Russian soldiers emerge from the basement of the buildings and immediately run towards the nearby trees. A ready FPV Kamikaze drone glides toward these enemy soldiers and launches its attack. The Strix unit had identified that enemy soldiers were heavily using the buildings in this area. Acting according to a plan, the units first succeeded in flushing Russian infantry out of their shelters. Successive attacks threw the enemy soldiers into panic. When they came out, a hunter was waiting. Kamikaze drones, waiting for the most opportune moment to strike, tracked the enemy and managed to neutralize them in a short time. The unit carried out many similar attacks in this area. As a result, many Russian military personnel and ammunition were completely neutralized. Ukrainian forces also launched new attacks on these buildings, aiming to prevent enemy soldiers from using this area as a new staging ground.